This is the front of the neck. Midline structures, you can see the hyoid bone. Below that, this is the thyroid cartilage. This is the cricoid cartilage. Below that is isthmus and the two lateral lobes of thyroid gland, and this is trachea. The second, third and fourth tracheal rings will be overlapped by the isthmus. This is cricoid, this is thyroid, this is hyoid bone. Above that is the mylohyoid muscle and the floor of the mouth. So this is the thyroid cartilage, which contains two lamina interconnected in the midline. The fusion point of the two lamina forms the Adam's apple. So this is cricoid cartilage. You can see a muscle here stretching between thyroid and cricoid. It arises from the cricoid cartilage and goes to the lower border of the lamina of the thyroid cartilage. This is cricothyroid muscle. This is the only muscle seen on the external aspect of the larynx. Its contraction is pull the thyroid cartilage downwards, tilt it downwards, increasing the distance between the thyroid and arytenoid, thereby increasing the length of the vocal cord, making it stretch and become tense. So this is cricothyroid muscle, the only muscle of the larynx seen on the external aspect. This is the posterior view of the laryngopharynx. This is tongue, oropharynx part up to epiglottis. From epiglottis onwards, laryngopharynx begins. So we are cutting the posterior wall of the laryngopharynx and exposing it on either side to show you the posterior view of the larynx. So this is epiglottis, anterior surface, this is posterior surface. So this is the arytenoid cartilages, one on either side, and here will be the cricoid cartilage. You can see the cricoid cartilage. This is thyroid. This is thyroid lamina. This is the cricoid cartilage, posterior lamina. Above that sitting will be the arytenoid cartilage. Here will be the arytenoid. This is cricoid. So when the cricoid is fused, it forms a signet ring-shaped structure. Above that, here will be the arytenoid cartilage. So extending from the apex of the arytenoid cartilage to the lateral margin of epiglottis is a mucosal fold. This mucosal fold is called as aryepiglottic fold. So the inlet of the larynx is formed by epiglottis anteriorly, on either side by the aryepiglottic fold, posteriorly by the mucous membrane stretching between the two arytenoid cartilages. So this aryepiglottic fold contains two structures. One is a muscle called as aryepiglotticus muscle. This stretches from the apex of the anterolateral surface of the arytenoid close to the apex to the lateral margin of epiglottis. And there is also upper free margin of quadrangular membrane. Both these along with the mucosal covering is called as aryepiglottic fold. Now we are going to cut the cricoid cartilage lamina in the middle along with the mucous membrane to expose the cavity of the larynx. So this is the cavity of the larynx. So this is the epiglottis. These are the two thyroid lamina. In the middle of the thyroid lamina, on the inside the epiglottis is attached. This is the cricoid cartilage and this is arytenoid cartilage. You can see the arytenoid cartilage here. This is arytenoid, this is cricoid. You can see two mucosal folds, one above, one below. The upper one is called as vestibular folds. This stretches from the anterolateral surface of arytenoid to the inner surface of thyroid cartilage. This vestibular fold is caused by lower free margin of quadrangular membrane along with its mucosal covering. Below that there is another mucosal fold, one on either side. This lower mucosal fold is called as vocal fold. That contains vocalis muscle, vocal ligament, which is the upper free end of conus elasticus ligament stretching between cricoid and arytenoid cartilage and thyroid cartilage anteriorly, covered by mucous membrane. In between these two, between the vestibular fold and the vocal fold, there is a space here. This space is called as sinus of larynx, which is bounded above by a pair of vocal folds and below by a pair of vestibular folds above and a pair of vocal folds below. The portion of the laryngeal cavity above the vestibular fold is called as the vestibule of larynx. then sinus of larynx. Below the vocal fold, this portion up to the trachea is called as infraglottic part. So this is vestibule. First is the inlet, then vestibule, then sinus of larynx. Below that will be the infraglottic part. The space in the cavity is divided first into inlet of larynx, then a space bounded by two vestibular folds called as rhima vestibuli, then sinus of larynx, then a space enclosed between the two vocal folds which is called as rhima glottidis. Below that will be the infraglottic part. So if the larynx is in position, when you view from above, you will be able to see first the inlet, then the space enclosed between the two vestibular folds, then the space enclosed between the two vocal folds, then infraglottic part. So inlet, rhima vestibuli, rhima glottidis, infraglottic part. Below the vestibular fold, if you put your forceps above, it will go for some distance between this layer of mucosa and the wall of the larynx above. This space that is existing between the quadrangular membrane medially covered with mucosa and the lamina of thyroid cartilage laterally is called as saccule of the larynx. So the mucosa, after covering the vestibular ligament, will run for some distance between the quadrangular membrane medially and the wall of the thyroid cartilage laterally, and then bend downwards and comes, forming a blind pouch. That is called as saccule of the larynx, that contains abundance of mucosal glands which will secrete and pour their secretions on the vocal ligament below, thereby lubricating the vocal cord. Because it is a vocal cord which vibrates and produces phonation, it has to be constantly vibrated, that is constantly lubricated. That is done by the saccule of the larynx, which is also called as oil can of the larynx. So this is saccule, vestibular folds, vocal folds, sinus of larynx, infraglottic part, inlet of larynx, vestibule of the larynx. The space between the two vestibular folds is called as rhima vestibuli. The space in between the vestibular fold above and the vocal fold below is called as sinus of larynx. The space enclosed between the two vocal folds is called as rhima glottidis. Below that is the infraglottis. In this specimen, you can see the vestibular fold and vocal folds very nicely. So this is vestibular folds caused by the lower free margin of quadrangular membrane. The stretches between epiglottis and the thyroid cartilage. Upper border forms the ariepiglottic fold. Lower border forms the free and forms the vestibular fold covered with mucous membrane. This is the vocal fold, which consists of vocal ligament, which is the upper free border of cricothyroid membrane along with vocalis muscle. So in between these two, this is the sinus of larynx. So this forceps is now in the saccule of the larynx. Saccule is between the quadrangular membrane and thyroid cartilage. Saccule, vestibular fold, vocal fold, sinus of larynx. This space between the two vestibular folds is rhima vestibuli. The space between the two vocal folds is rhima glottidis. This is sinus. This is ariepiglottic fold stretching between arytenoid, epiglottis to arytenoid. This is arytenoid cartilage. This is cricoid cartilage. This is thyroid cartilage. This is piriform rhesus, epiglottis. Then on the lateral side of the ariepiglottic fold, between that and the thyroid lamina's inner surface, there is a deep pouch. So when you keep the larynx closed and if you approximate the pharyngeal wall of the laryngopharynx, this depression, one on either side of the inlet of the larynx and the thyroid cartilage, will be in the anterior wall of the laryngopharynx. This is called as piriform rhesus. This is the space where the internal laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal artery will pierce and come inside. The internal laryngeal nerve will supply sensations for the larynx up to the level of vocal cord. Up to the level of vocal cord, entire general sensation like touch, pain, temperature, pressure is perceived by the internal laryngeal nerve. So if a foreign body that is eaten gets stuck in the piriform rhesus, and when they are trying to remove it through endoscopy, there is a possibility that they may damage the internal laryngeal nerve, leading to loss of sensation in the supraglottic part of the laryngeal cavity. So internal laryngeal nerve is purely a sensory nerve. So you can see in some specimens piercing it through. So this is the internal laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal artery. This is the thyroid cartilage. This is the hyoid bone. In between these two is the thyroid membrane. So that is pierced by internal laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal vessels. Piercing, they will go inside and come to the pyriform races. All the muscles of the larynx are supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve except cricothyroid muscle, that alone is supplied by external laryngeal nerve. Regarding sensation, up to the level of vocal cord, sensation is by internal laryngeal nerve. Below the level of vocal cord, sensation is by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Regarding mucosal lining, since larynx is the respiratory passage, entire larynx is lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium except two areas. One is upper half of the posterior surface of epiglottis. You can see this color variation. This will be pink in color, whereas this is bluish black in color. This upper half of the posterior surface of epiglottis is lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Similarly, the vocal cord or vocal mucosal fold covering the vocal ligament is also lined by stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So except the vocal fold and the posterior surface of the upper half of the epiglottis, which are lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, the rest of the larynx will be lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. In this specimen, I will demonstrate to you the closure of the inlet of the larynx. Okay. So the person is eating the food. The food bolus, after coming into the oral cavity through the oropharyngeal isthmus, will enter into oropharynx. Then it slips down into the laryngopharynx. As it is slipping down into the laryngopharynx, it pushes the epiglottis downwards. So the epiglottis falls back. At the same time, the two arytenoid cartilages are closely approximated and pulled a little anteriorly. So this will close completely the inlet of the larynx. So inlet of the larynx, all these are passive process. We won't be able to realize these movements. Once the food has entered and crossed the laryngeal inlet and entered into the lower part of the laryngopharynx, all of them will revert back to normal position so that you can breathe in. So whenever the food is passing from oropharynx to laryngopharynx, epiglottis falls back, arytenoid cartilages are approximated by interarytenoideus muscles, laryngeal inlet is completely closed. Once the food bolus has passed, they will revert back to normal position, inlet gets opened up so that the patient can breathe.